Hello, welcome again to sunnychilds.com and a daily devotional. Working through the notes in my Bible, as I told you last time, I noticed that the next series of notes that I have comes from Genesis chapter 3. Last time we looked at Genesis 2:24. Man shall leave, cleave, and conceive with regard to the relationship with his wife. As we continue on, as far as my notes are concerned, the next thing that I have is in Genesis 3, where it talks about the curse that was placed upon Satan, curse that was placed upon woman, and the curse that was placed upon man. And these curses were not just specific to those particular individuals. They also carry on even today, as you know. First of all, to Satan. If you flip on down in chapter 3, verse 14 and following, it says, "So the Lord said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals," etc. He places a curse. And then he says this in verse 15, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers." And then there's this statement, "He will crush your head, you will strike his heel." Of course, most scholars believe that he's referring there to Jesus, that it is true that Satan will, as it were, inflict a wound on Jesus, hurt his heel, but it's not a wound that is everlasting. On the other hand, it says that Jesus is actually going to strike his head and is going to crush his head. And so the wound that comes from Jesus is going to be a permanent wound that is placed upon Satan. So there's the curse that is placed there. Number two, the curse that is placed upon the woman. "I'll greatly increase your pains in childbearing, and with pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be to your husband, and he will rule over you." Secondly, we see that the curse that was placed upon woman is that she was going to be in a subservient role somewhat to her husband. And that I'm not sure how things operated in the garden prior to this, but I know that at this particular point, the role that God has placed upon the woman, if you want to summarize it, is this. She is to go in and bring things out, whereas the man is to go out and bring things in. Let's deal with the woman first. She is to reach into the lives of her family. Her attention will be to her husband. She'll be one who gives attention to her children. She'll be a nurturer, all of those kind of things. This is going to be the role that she is to have. And if she is to be most pleasing to God, she is to maintain that role. She is to promote it. She is to be a woman who finds herself primarily in that role, to going into the lives of her family, her children and her husband, and bringing out the good things. Number three, then, the curse that is placed upon the man is that the ground will be cursed, and that he'll have to produce thorns and it'll produce thorns and thistles for you. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, etc. In other words, he is to be a provider, and so he's going to have to go out and bring things in. The woman reaches into her home, brings things out of their hearts. The man reaches outside the home and brings things in by way of a provider. And so the process is going to be interesting with regard to these two, that they are going to complement one another, it is true, but at the same time there's going to be difficulties in all that they have. Women will struggle with childbearing, the pain that is there, the various heartaches that will come in trying to raise her children and take care of her husband, all of those kind of things. Man, on the other hand, it's not going to be a cushy job. It's going to be difficult for him as he reaches outside the home to bring things back to the home to provide for them. It's going to be difficult. And so from this early third chapter of the book of Genesis, we find that the pattern of humanity is already set. And these are the roles that God has given to us. And until he comes to take us out of this life, we need to fulfill these roles. Women need to be nurturers and providers for their home. Men need to be providers who go outside the home and bring the good things in that are necessary, protectors, instructors of the home. A man is the head of the house, according to Ephesians chapter 5, and he needs to make sure that his leadership within that home is not just materialistic, but it needs to be primarily spiritual in nature. And so we find that the pattern of life of humanity is set even here in the third chapter of Genesis, and we will be most blessed if we make sure that we stay within the roles that God has given to us. Thank you for joining me again, sunnychilds.com. Hope you come back next time. God bless.